New year, new you. That's some bullshit. But it's the time of the year that most people want to start something, a project, for example. And one of the best things that you can do if you, like me, have chronic issues is to figure out what triggers your fatigue or your flare-ups, your migraines, your pain, your abdominal, intestinal pain. And because it's New Year's, I figure out that you have extra energy to start this project of tracking your health, because it isn't the easiest and you have to do it every single day to actually find a result or something, but it isn't as difficult. You just need pen and paper and that's it. First thing that you should do is to have an idea more or less of what could be your triggers. You can always do a quick search of, for example, what could make fatigue worse. Some people say it could be gluten, it could be sugar and carbohydrates. If you have migraines, it could be dairy, it could be change in weather, it could be some pollutants, even perfumes. So have an idea of those could be useful to put in your tracker, but it's actually not that complicated. Mine is a very, very basic tracker specifically for my symptoms and the things that I deal with, but it's not that difficult, and it's just a way to get started and figuring out what could actually make your symptoms worse. So let's get started. Okay, so this is my planner, my bullet planner, and this is how I started a tracker. So basically I tailored this to my own stuff and my own issues that I wanted to track, obviously. So for example, important things for me were fatigue and energy, symptoms, activity, sleep schedule, and others like food, for example. So in terms of energy, because it wiggles so much, I put from -2 to 3. Obviously I didn't have any really actually good days, and I had a baseline of like 0, which is not feeling great and not feeling terrible, basically. For people that menstruate, it's also interesting to put when are you menstruating, because for example I didn't have any peak of energy, but I wasn't also feeling worse. So basically I could just put 0 and I can track how my period affects my health and my symptoms. I would recommend that if you want to track energy and activity, to switch this so you can see a better correlation between, for example, doing extra activity, like in this case, for example, and how are you feeling. And because of my energy, for example, wiggles so much, I had to say, for example, in the morning how I was feeling, so it's this white thingy, and in the evening how my energy changed. So for example, this day on the 9th, I had some energy in the morning. I can also see, for example, that I did quite a few things, and then in the evening I did a little bit extra energy, and then my energy dropped. So basically a full day of doing things. I was good in the morning, I was bad in the evening. I can totally see that there was a correlation between what I did and the energy that I had. And I can also go back to my notes and see what I did. All this is in Spanish, by the way, I think most of it. So I think I did quite a few things. I went out with friends, so I have a few more things. I updated this for January because New Year's, and I feel like I want to track my stuff back again. So I changed this a little bit. But also I have here my symptoms, and I regret, for example, that I didn't put notes where I could say exactly what was bothering me, if it was my tachycardia, if it was more like fainting or like fainting spells, what was bothering me, maybe nausea as well. And I regret not adding those. And you can also do this separately, like if your main thing is nausea, you can say how much nausea you have and you can track that. You can also do that with food. And for example, here in sleep, because I know there's a correlation between if I every time I went to bed at the same time and I woke up at the same time, I know that really affects my energy. And then I basically put like early, on time, and late. And in black is when I went to sleep, and in white dot is when I woke up. So for example, this day I went super early, but also I was super exhausted, so it makes sense that I went super early. You can also add times if you want. This is super tiny, but still it gives you an idea, for example, how late I went to bed this day. And then these days I woke up pretty much at the same time, and then I stopped tracking this part. So that's also another thing to have in mind. If you want to track when you go to sleep, you can also do that like this, or you can do it differently, but I feel like visually for me is the best way. Then I also wanted to track if I was having gluten, because I have a lot of abdominal pain, and I wanted to see if there was some correlation between gluten or sugar, or if I was taking a lot of sugar, if that would change my fatigue level. You can say like most days I didn't have any sugar and my health was still like all over the place, but with gluten, for example, I have a little bit of it, and I can tell if I was like in pain. This is in Spanish, but it was basically if I was like abdominal pain, and I didn't track those days, but I had like yes, like the why yes. So I have few days that I had pain, but at the same time I didn't have a lot of gluten. So basically you have all the information here. I can see, for example, in here that I was feeling way worse this day, but I was actually not doing anything. And then you can see the previous day. It's not that I did much, but in here I can say I drank a lot of water, but I didn't have much salt and much electrolytes, and that could actually be that I was getting very dehydrated, even though I was drinking a lot of water, because sometimes I drink water, but it's like my body doesn't actually keep it inside. So that could actually be one of the triggers, that I wasn't having enough electrolytes. And then the next day I did have electrolytes and I felt a little bit better. I went to bed early. So it's a way to track a little bit of your symptoms. There are many ways, but most of them are just like generic for health, and I wanted to do specifically for me, for my health, and for the things that worry me. I also put if I was running out of spoons, which most days I didn't, and 2 days, for example, I did, and I wanted to see if that actually would have an effect on the next days. And then my energy stayed the same, which is a 0, wasn't great, but wasn't either bad. Things that I'm gonna change definitely is how I'm gonna track this. So for example, I regret that the notes in here, I have to switch between the day and then go in here. So, and for example, now I put the days, and then I can put notes in here, and I can immediately see the day. But also I made a mistake because this is going to be a little bit hard tracking. So I think this bar should be down here, so the days go like this. So it's basically just to be able to see it like this. So next time, either I put this in here or I flip the numbers, so I have to read it like this. And also important, just put in something like your symbols, like morning, evening. In here, for example, also put if I did some sport, which I was doing a lot of sport, like mainly swimming, because I know it really helps not staying in the -2. Like you see, I have very few days in the -2, and that used to be the rule. So I know that swimming definitely helps, but at the same time, there's not many days there's correlation between doing extra, or maybe here doing extra and feeling worse. That's a really good way to just keep a track of everything, and maybe you can find out things like I can see during my period I wasn't doing worse, but I wasn't doing fine, and it's a way to track a little bit of everything, especially meant for chronic fatigue and flare-ups. And also you can put, if you have migraines, you could put your migraines, if maybe seizures. If you have seizures, you would probably want to put like in notes if there was something that you can think that it was a trigger. So that was also really important. And I also want to track what is the trigger for my flare-ups and for my tachycardia and everything. So yeah, this is a simple way. I haven't seen many specifically for chronic illness, but I'm sure there's so many out there. But I don't know, I just wanted to give my take on tracking for chronic illness. One thing that you have to have in mind is that you have to be persistent. Every single day you have to track your symptoms. And that's why the last time I tracked my symptoms, it was August. But now it's January, so I'm gonna start again because I have some new motivation, and I will probably quit by February. But maybe I can figure out some of my triggers again this month. So yeah, I hope it goes well. I hope you figure out some of your triggers or what makes your symptoms worse, and I hope it's helpful. Probably in the future I will do another one with Excel once I'm more avid with it, and I found new techniques of how to track my health better. For now, it's just pen on paper. And yeah, I hope that was helpful. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.